Hi, my name is Meg Loeks, and I am a portrait photographer from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and you are listening to the Workflows podcast.
Meg, I'm really excited about this conversation, not only because your work is absolutely incredible, but because it's also a genre of photography that I feel like sometimes doesn't get enough attention in the industry, especially when you're talking to a lot of wedding photographers, a lot of event photographers, a lot of volume sport photographers. This fine art, this portraiture work that you do, which is absolutely stunning, it needs more light for a good pun going on there. And so I'm excited about this for those two reasons. So thank you for joining me to talk about this today.
Thank you. Yeah, my work has shifted over the years. When I initially started out, we're talking like way back in the day when I was a teen, and I was doing film at that time. So I was developing my own prints and everything. And when I started to have a family, I switched to digital because I wanted to photograph my kids. And at that time, when I first started out and even launching my business about 10, 11 years ago, I was much more like documentary lifestyle. And it shifted over the years. Several years ago, I realized I was just really into portraiture and all types of portraiture. We're talking, conceptual photography, fine art, just classic traditional portraiture, because I really like to control my environment. I like the entire process of portraiture, from planning to styling, working with lighting, and then of course the editing portion is also really important to me as well.
Yeah, and we're going to dive into a bunch of that today, which is really exciting. So let's get right into the first thing that has been working well in your workflow. Do you want to share what that is with everybody?
Yeah, so there's an entire process that's involved with it. And funny enough, I feel like the shooting process itself is the shortest part of the process. It's all about, first of all, the concept development. And I have a planner that I live by, and I'm old school.
A physical planner.
I'm old school.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something about, I feel like I'm on devices all the time. Like I'm on my computer all the time, my phone. And so for me, having a physical planner works really well. And that's where I organize my thoughts and keep a running shooting list in that planner. So that's the very start for me is coming up with the ideas, sometimes even drawing them out in my planner, and going from there.
So can you talk about this planner? Because it's I'm going to, just based on many conversations I've had about workflows over the years, I'm going to make an educated guess that's probably 20 to 30% of the industry uses physical planners. The rest just go with the digital thing. So can you talk about how this planner, how does this look? Is it one book that you update every year? Because obviously days change and stuff like that. Yeah. Is it multiple books where you've got a calendar, and then you've got another one which is blank pages for mock-ups and sketches and ideas? How's it all come together like that? Yeah.
And sorry, if you heard in the background, my dog is snoring and talking in her sleep. So she was making noise in the background. She's a puppy still. So yeah, the planner. Okay. So I've been doing this for a very long time. When I say very long time, it's at least 8-9 years, if not since the very start of launching my business. And it's always been just one single planner for me. And every December I order it. It's a custom planner, which is what I like. I order this planner through Golden Coil. They are not paying me or anything for mentioning them. I just absolutely love their planners. And this is where I order every year and every December, so that I have it by the beginning of January. And I like that you can customize it. I have it broken down week by week so that I can schedule in my shoots. I literally physically write down and schedule in my shoots based off of what I've got going on. Again, I mentioned I keep like a running shot list within that planner. And then in between each week, I have like blank pages so that I can draw out ideas and everything. But I just have this one, and I find that it works well for me because I feel like if I had any more than that, it would actually make me less productive. So just having the one planner where I keep like everything, my notes, my ideas, all of that, just in one central location.
Have you considered from a business standpoint, because that's also, even though it's not photography in particular, but because it's related, have you considered contacting Golden Coil and trying to sell your own branded planners for people who want to learn from you and learn your methodology?
No, it's such a good idea. I never really thought of it. I'm like the worst when it comes to like collabs and stuff like that. I usually don't like reach out, and I don't know why, but I think that's such a great idea and could be potentially something really fun because I've been ordering them from them for many years. And I've actually spoke to several friends and about my planners, and now they have planners from Golden Coil as well, just because I don't know. I really like how they operate, and they have a lot of like really cool like cover options too, from like, fabric material to like different designs and stuff, which I love. And again, that you can customize it too, but that's such a great idea.
I think it could do really well for the industry, because while it is probably the minority these days for people to use physical planners for their jobs, whatever it might be, there's a market there, and I think people would appreciate something that is well thought out for their work. And I think there's a lot of potential for expansion there as well. Like you could start one for families and then make another one for something else, and maybe it's a little different or something. I don't know, just something to chew on.
And I think everybody operates differently in how they organize things, but I do think there's something to be said about physically writing things out. And like I said, I don't know, I've always operated this way. So even in college, I would rewrite my notes all the time, like physically rewrite everything just to like for memorization, from, learning and all of that. So for me, being able to just write ideas and thoughts down, there's again, something to be said about that, I think, in regard to creativity. And then it's also super satisfying to like be able to cross things off once you've accomplished something. Yeah. So I feel like that's like a kind of a little bit of a mood booster. So that's why I gravitate towards that. But yeah, thank you for that idea. It's a great idea.
Yeah. I personally have never been able to do a physical planner, or sometimes I'll take notes with a notebook, but my handwriting is so bad that I wouldn't be able to even read it.
So what do you do?
Everybody says I should have been a doctor.
Oh yeah. Do you just use your phone or?
I typically use my phone, or if I'm at the computer, I'm just typing it out in Apple Notes, and then it syncs to my phone, and I always have it handy. But I also do have a note. If I'm traveling, I've got a little one with me, like one of those little pocket ones. And then I've got notebooks on my desk, and pen is ready and stuff. It's just, it depends. It depends on, like if I'm in a meeting, for example, whether it's with a client or whether it is with someone at work with Imagen, I'm using a meeting note taker and it's doing it for me instead of me having to take notes. But if it's something else, you never know. I might need a piece of paper. It all depends on the situation, but still, it's very hard for me to read my own handwriting. But it happens.
I get that.
So what else is going well in your workflow? With the planner, fantastic. I love that you're doing it, and I love that we now have a business model for you for the future with that. And what else is going well in your business workflows?
Another thing that I think is going well in regard to my business workflow is my organization just in general. I think I feel like I've learned like the hard way, like what works and what doesn't work. I think everybody has, and I think time management is can be a really tricky one, and I still struggle with it, but I have a system down, especially when it comes to like not only shooting and, planning, shooting and editing, all of that, but also like posting on social media and stuff. I'm pretty routine in how I do things. So for example, every morning I wake up and I am on my computer, usually about 7 a.m. I start to edit my image for the day that I'm going to share on social media. So I like to wake up and do that with fresh eyes. I'm not someone that likes to edit in the evening. And I think because I'm not a night owl, I'm a morning person. And so I usually, if I edit at night and I wake up in the morning and like look at my edit, I'm like, what was I doing? Like, what was I thinking? Because it looks way off. So I like to wake up, edit, and then after I've done, editing my image, I'll share on social media and engage for a little bit, and then start tackling work throughout the workday. And that system's worked really well for me, Monday through Friday. That's what I do just about every single day. And then I take the weekends off and kind of unplug and spend time with my family and all of that.
It's great. Having that routine in place and trying not to break from the routine is really, really important, especially for the family time. When it comes to social media content and like editing that photo each morning, how do you try to keep a big backlog like at the ready that you can choose from? Or is it just based on your own personal work combined with what, client work you have at any given moment determines your backlog that you have?
Yeah, I try to. Like, for example, right now I've got at least 4 or 5 images that I need to edit and could potentially share. And that's ideal for me to have at least about that number. I'm shooting a lot less than I used to, partly because a lot of what I am shooting takes a lot of time to create. So from the planning to the styling, setting up the lighting, all of that, we're talking hours. So I shoot a lot less than I used to. It sort of depends on the shoot. So if it's a studio shoot, which is about 75 to 80% of my work, that's extensive stuff. But when I'm shooting outside, it's much more like lifestyle, not as styled, of course. It's much more like nature's driving me. So like the weather, the season, for example, like right now it's fall, which is my favorite season. So I'm outside a lot, soaking up the peak color. So it just kind of depends on all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I like to have around 4 or 5 images like ready, like in the queue, basically ready to be edited and to share. I feel like when I don't have a cushion like that, it does kind of stress me out a little bit. And sometimes like during like busy season, event season, I don't have as much to share in the backlog. So yeah.
Interesting. That's good. It's good to have some sort of backlog, especially if you're working that day after day of having that routine in place. So it's good that you've got something there pretty regularly to be able to pull from at any moment.
Right.
You brought up studio and sort of out in nature.
Yeah.
2 very different situations with lighting. So let's talk about your typical lighting setup and then something else that's going well when it comes to lighting for you in your workflow. What's your typical lighting setup for both studio or outside?
So I would say typical lighting for me is anywhere from just like simply 2 to 3 lights in studio. Sometimes I'm doing like 5 or 6, maybe even 7 lights, which is a lot because I do like to light really big environments and like to have things from like, practical to motivated lighting, all that kind of stuff in regards to studio setup. But a normal, traditional light setup for me is anywhere from 2 to 3 lights. So I like to have like a key light, main light, and a fill light to kind of lift the shadows a little bit. And then if I do have a third light, it's usually like my creative light. It's like what I like to call it. So maybe hair light, backlight, maybe it's motivated lights somewhere like near a lamp or something. Or I live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And the weather here is often very cloudy, foggy too as well, which I love. So I'm typically outside working in that type of weather. So it's cloudy right now, actually. So cloudy weather, I love fog. I do love to, of course, shoot in backlight. But I don't often do that as much anymore, especially because I think just schedules, because I've got 5 kids and they're all going to school and my littlest is going to daycare. So, mornings and evenings are super busy and I just don't often shoot during golden hour like I used to. And I think I think also for me, it can be a little bit more stressful sometimes. I think shooting in outdoor environments now, because I'm so used to shooting in studio, and I love that I can control things so much more. Like, I don't have to rely on weather, for my shoots. I don't have to like worry about it. I mean, I will use my lights sometimes outside, but not often, because it can be kind of tricky. It can be challenging because usually you need maybe like an assistant or somebody there to help you with your lighting because of wind, which we get strong winds here, especially this time of year, and all those kind of factors, right? So, if it's just, I love that, again, I can, with indoor studio work, it just kind of takes a lot of pressure off my shoulders because I can control everything. I don't have to rely on natural light and weather and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And you mentioned to me that you schedule these like creative play days. Can you talk about what that, because if you've got your setup right for typical sessions or whatever you might be doing, both indoor or outdoor, but experimenting and playing is so important for our creativity, right? If the more we get into this system of it's the same over and over again, the less creative you feel. And as photographers, we want to feel creative, even though it's a business. So talk about what you do for the creative aspect.
Yeah, it's so important to like talk about this. I think it's like a really important topic because I especially this time of year, right? Like in the fall, I feel like you see more often than not like photographer burnout because a lot of photographers are just slammed with client sessions, right? Because it's autumn, it's fall, you have that beautiful color, people want their Christmas cards, they want all this kind of stuff. So they get slammed, and the next thing you know, it's all like just client session after client session after client session, and you're not blocking off any time for creativity. And I always like suggest and recommend, no matter how busy you are, to carve out like at least one day a month for you. Like you just mark that off your calendar as being unavailable that day. You don't schedule anything, no clients, nothing. And you have that day be like something that you want to work on, that you want to shoot just for yourself. Maybe, learning a new technique. A lot of this stuff I think helps not only for growth, but also just for sessions too. Like a lot of my creative play dates that I have, I end up using those ideas for like my workshop shoots with models and stuff. So when I have in-person workshops, I'm like, we're going to do this with model. And I know exactly how I want my light. I know exactly what like the theme is going to be, all this kind of stuff, because I played and practiced with it in advance. So again, not only helping with growth, but also helping with like ideas, maybe things that you would want to do with clients too, as well, like client sessions or something like that. So I think there's a lot of benefit to it.
Oh, I totally agree. 100%. There's so much value in just playing with no pressure, because the pressure in itself could degrade your creativity. So if you remove all pressure from it, there's no intended goal, but you never know. You could come out with something that is absolutely incredible for you to redo in the future, or like you said, for your workshops or whatever it might be. It's really, so you're doing one day a month, or is that what you recommend for people, and you're doing more? Like how?
I'm doing more.
What are you doing?
I'm doing more.
You're doing more.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I do recommend that, at least once a month. I think it depends on so for me, I don't take as many clients. I only take on client sessions from July to September typically. And I only take on about 2 a month. So very, very limited like client sessions, because outside of that, like for the rest of the year, I'm like busy with events and in-person workshops and online workshops. That's my full-time gig. So it might look a little bit different for someone who has, their main thing is clients. So, I always just recommend once a month, but for me, I do more than that. And I feel like I kind of need to, especially with the amount of in-person workshops I do have and everything. I'm able to like change up these ideas for shoots. things like, experimenting with different lighting, like I mentioned, experimenting with fun tools like Mylar, for example, which can be a lot of fun. And another thing that I recommend this to my students is that, when you're wanting to learn a new technique, to set up the day before. You kind of like touched on it a little bit, but setting up the day before you actually want to do the shoot. So you're just kind of like the day before playing, and you're practicing and you're experimenting and you're making mistakes, and you're allowing yourself to make mistakes without any sort of like pressure on your shoulders, and you're fixing those mistakes. So it's all about kind of experimenting the day before, so that the day of the shoot, you're ready to go. You know exactly how you want to style everything, compose everything, how you want your light to be. So that's another thing that I recommend, especially when it comes to, again, learning a new technique, or, maybe creating an image that really means a lot to you, that has a lot of meaning, that's really important to you, that maybe you've had on your shot list for a long time.
Yeah. It's very well said. There's so many advantages to it. So hopefully people get inspired to set aside at least one day a month to do it for themselves. No matter the type of photography that you do, there's always room, right? Yeah, you could, for example, like wedding photographers, they're typically, right, especially here in the US, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? The occasional midweek wedding. But for the most part, you've got the whole middle of the week to take a day off if you want and spend it on for yourself creatively. Okay, let's divert now into an area where there's an area that you're struggling in your workflow, but you want to improve. You're working on improving now. What would that be in your workflow?
I would say just this speed in which I get things done, especially when it's like batch editing. So there's actually twofold. I should back up a little bit. So first, culling. Like I'm not a big fan of, I don't know if there's anybody that really enjoys culling. Maybe there is, but I don't enjoy it at all. And that's one of the reasons also I love studio work, because with studio work, I don't have as much to cull, because I'm very intentional and slow about my shots. But when I'm shooting outside, I'm often shooting like through the moment. And so I have a lot more to cull usually, and it can be so painful. So I would love to speed that up. And then also I would love to just speed up like batch editing, whether it's clients or like even personal work when I do like edit. I mean, I often, when I'm sharing images, not always, but most of the time it's just a single image. But there are times when I'm, doing a batch edit, and I'm so tedious about my editing. Like I nitpick everything. And color is really important to me. So there's a lot of color grading involved, but there's also like, even some like selective color tweaks and everything that I make. So that's the other thing that I struggle with.
How much of your work is composite versus just one photo edited?
So anytime you see an image where there's maybe more than one subject, not always, but most of the time, excuse me. So anytime there is more than one subject, or if there's like an animal involved, so again, like maybe a kiddo and an animal, that is usually a composite for a number of reasons. The biggest reason is that it cuts down on shooting time. So I kind of like break my image up into parts, basically, where I focus on one section of the frame, photograph them, then focus on another section of the frame, photograph them. And it just cuts down on the shooting time, which is so important, especially if I'm working with kids or animals. Like I want it to be super quick. Like we're talking 1 minute, 2 minutes max, and then they're done. So yeah, and whenever there's images like that, it's often a composite.
And are you always doing your own photo for the composite images? Are you always using your own photos for each part of the composite, or are you now using a generative tool in Photoshop or whatnot to build pieces here and there, whether a tiny piece or a larger piece to the puzzle?
Yeah, great question. So about like 98 to 90% of the time, it's all my stuff. So I'm like taking every every ounce of that frame is usually something that I own. I like it to typically be that way. Every now and then I might actually use Adobe stock for, I'll give you an example. Like if I want wallpaper and it's not a wallpaper that I have within my studio or house, I might like purchase an overlay from Adobe stock for wallpaper, or like a TV screen. That would be an example, but it's rare. It's very rare. So, and then occasionally I use generative fill, but I use generative fill typically for like removing things. So like I use it like I would like the clone tool or the spot healing tool is basically how I use it. If I'm going to clone something out or spot heal something, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just use generative fill. That's about the extent of what I use generative fill for, because I kind of have problems with it. Like sometimes I feel like when I do use it, if I zoom way in, I might see some issues with it. Like I might
some artifacts or something.
Yeah. I mean, we're not talking like really crazy issues like the third arm that's happened, or like, really weird things are like, that's not supposed to be, that's not what's supposed to be happening. Right. But like I will, sometimes my images get blown up pretty big. And so when I'm zooming in, I want to like make sure that there's not like weird pixelation and stuff. So I sometimes still even like, instead of using generative fill, we'll go old school and use clone tool stuff, because I know that I can perfect it and, hide certain things much easier, if I just do it by hand.
Yeah. So there's two aspects to your editing workflow. One being when you do have a batch of photos to edit, and the other being when you're doing a composite work, right? There's two versions of this. One being there's probably solutions that you could use for the batch, right? And I know you're trying a bunch right now. Right. And then there's the composite, which I don't know if there's a solution out there that can help. Like you would think that generative fill, generative remove, etc., would speed up a composite workflow, but at the same time, you also have to spend the time zooming in to fix bits and pieces here. That is it really saving the time, right? So it's very interesting on both ends, right? One, there's options. The other, don't know if there's options yet.
Not yet, but I think there will be, and I don't know. I know for a fact that I could operate much better than what I am. And I kind of am notorious for like getting new things and then sitting on them for a really long time before I really start to get the hang of them or understand them. So a perfect example would be like even buying a new camera and then like holding onto it and not using it for 6 months to 8 months, just because I'm like, oh, I got to devote time to learning this new thing, But then once I do, then it's like this whole new world has opened up, right? And so I know there's a lot of things, especially when it comes to like skin. Like I edit skin, not heavily, but like, because I want to have like the texture still in skin, and I don't want to have it, look like my subject is plastic, but I do oftentimes want to remove imperfections and especially smooth things out, specifically like in the shadows. So like I know I can operate so much better with that kind of stuff in regard to AI, and color grading is another aspect as well and stuff. So yeah, composite work, that's tricky. And I don't know if there's stuff for that just yet, but other areas for sure, I know I'm like needing to speed up that process because I know I would save so much time.
You definitely have a distinct style to not only the overall color grading of your work, but also the how you manipulate the skin to give it this look that still, like you said, doesn't look plasticky, but you can tell that something's been done to it.
Right.
And it's very distinctive to your style, which I think is fantastic. You can pull up it's definitely at the point where you can pull up a handful of people's portraiture and you can point yours out because you've got your style down and it's beautiful.
Thank you.
So, hopefully as you're exploring different tools for the color grading, for the stuff that we know there's solutions, hopefully you find one that you're happy with, you find something that works for you. I think the solution is there, and it'll be interesting to see how much time it will save you, even for, the volume that you are doing. Every minute still counts, right? That's more time that at the end of the day you can spend with your family afterwards, right? And on weekends, and not have to think about doing more editing and whatnot. And then you can take the time to focus more on the finer details of each piece, instead of focusing on color grading, for example.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when I was like experimenting with my profile, it was interesting. Like when I applied it to one of my images, it was one of my studio images. So with that said, I feel like the straight out of camera shot was already pretty solid. Like, and actually the person I was working with, when they were looking at it, they were like, is this already edited? And I was like, no, it's not. But it was just, because I could control the lighting and everything. Yeah. And I applied my profile to it, and it was so interesting because I immediately, after seeing, it applied, I immediately could see the color grading changes that were made. They were subtle, but they were there, and they were changes that I would have normally made. Like I could see that some cyan was brought in regard to the color grading. And I could see that also some like yellow green was brought into the highlights, which is what I almost always do, because I always finish with color grading when I'm editing. So I do like basic, edits, global adjustment edits first. Any sort of like, adding contrast. If I need to adjust exposure, white balance, all that, I do that first. And then I do like my selective color tweaks next. And then after my selective color tweaks, I would do skin. And then after skin, I might do some more like highlighting and shading. And that's, I think, one of the things that makes my work a little bit more like painterly, is because I do kind of like brush on highlighting and shading everywhere, like on certain details on my subject. And then I finish with color grading, and I have certain things I do every single time on all of my images. Some, it depends on the image, but some have stronger cyan than others because of the mood that I, want to have within the image. And it was so cool to like see, when I applied my profile, like, okay, I could see these changes, and these are the changes I would already typically make. And it was like one click and done.
Yeah. Yep. I'm going to ask you a question to that. I don't know tell me if anybody else has ever asked you this question. You like to use green in your photos, like the green of the shirt you're wearing right now, right? Yeah, and to me, so I'm partially colorblind, but I can tell in each photo that you've got this. It's some of them, it's subtly there, but it's from what I can tell, it's in every single photo.
Yeah.
Obviously that's intentional, but are there any photos where you don't have that green in it at all?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I like monochromatic color schemes too. So sometimes I'll have like, actually blue is my favorite color. So I have lots of like monochromatic, just blue. It's so interesting that you just mentioned just like color and being colorblind or partially colorblind, because I just listened to this really awesome, I don't know if you're a fan of Radiolab, but I listened to a episode on color. And they were talking about how, a lot of people who are colorblind, they have like 2 cone receptors. Most humans have 3. So most people have 3 cone receptors for them to be able to see color. And in the grand scheme of things, that's really not a lot. There are some women, 10% of women have 4. So they can see color a little bit more than others, and they can see like ultraviolet color. And it was just a really cool episode to like listen about like color and what sort of species like on Earth even have like way more. Like butterflies have 5, so they see like a lot more color than what we see. It just kind of blew my mind, like learning about this and how it could like alter the way we see things. And so yeah, I do have my color palette. Like I have like a favorite color palette, and that's repeated quite often, I think, in my images. And it's actually something that I teach about quite often too, as well. Like I try to help others kind of discover what colors they're really drawn to, and like what color palettes they really love as well. And I encourage complicated color palettes too. So like, for example, with my clients, I send them a welcome guide, and in the welcome guide, there's a bunch of examples in that welcome guide for them for different like wardrobe choices. Got tongue tied there. So like encouraging them to wear multiple colors and patterns and all of that. Because typically when someone's hiring me, they're hiring me for probably like my use of color as one of the things. Like they like that I have pretty rich, vibrant colors within my work. So they probably are going to want to see that within their images and in the session. So I think for someone who isn't artistic, it might be hard to like figure out what to wear and like how to style that, right? And so I like to provide like information to my clients too, showing them like lots of different choices, because I want to see a client and like a family show up in like 3 to 4 colors, if not more. I want to see like at least one pattern, if not 2. Like I want to see a mix. And again, that can be really hard for someone who's not artistic to like wrap their mind around that. Like, how do I even go there? How do I even do that? So I spent a lot of time with color palettes in general and like trying to help people and guide people into like discovering what they like, what they're drawn to, and how to like cohesively and harmoniously like pair that together.
Yeah. Providing a guide like that is so valuable for your clients, but also valuable for yourself, because you know that if they follow your instructions, they're going to give you exactly what you know will make the photo successful, which again, good for them, good for you. So it's super valuable for any photographer in any genre to create a guide for your clients to make the absolute best for the session, whatever the session might be. And you knowing your style, you knowing what works really well for your work and what your clients have loved over the years, throwing that into a PDF and giving that to your client and saying, review this. And, you know, if you could show up wearing this, you know, or anything from this document, it's going to help take it from like to like a 99.9% success rate for your session, right? In less businessy words. So it's so valuable. So it's great that you're doing that. I have your portfolio up on another screen right now, and I'm just keep browsing. I'm just like, I just love seeing the colors. Your work is just so beautiful.
It's funny.
It's so much fun to browse.
Well, I think as I get older, like my work gets more colorful, and I don't really know why, but as I've aged, it's gotten like more colorful and more colorful. But I've also kind of realized like, I guess with age too, just comes like the realization that I can do whatever I want. Like when it comes to my work, maybe it's a little bit saturated at times, maybe too saturated for some, but I'm like, but I like it, you know, like I love this. Like I love this like vivid color and I want to see it, you know? And so, and maybe it also has to do with where I live. Like we have a 6 to 7 month winter. So all I see outside is like white for like half the year. And I like am craving greenery and I'm craving color and we just don't have it. And so, so that's, I think another reason why too, like even in my house, like there's a lot of like paint colors in each room from like blue to green to purple, you know, and it just changes. And I don't know. I live that in all aspects of my life. I think having just a colorful life.
It definitely comes through, right? Your love of color definitely comes through in your work. It's so nice to see. Meg, this has been a fantastic conversation. I love that we've been able to cover a wide range of things from planning to lighting to even social media and your editing methodology and color. It's just, we covered a lot in a short period of time. And I'm sure that people are going to walk away just like blown away and inspired to try new things. Hopefully plan some creative days for themselves and so much more. So thank you so much for joining me. For those listening who have no idea where to find you, can you share where everybody can look you up and check out your incredible photography?
Yeah, absolutely. So I share most frequently on Instagram, so you can find me. My handle is Meg_NLO. I also try to regularly update my website, which is just my name, megloeks.com. But if you go to megloeks.com, that's where you're going to really also kind of see more of like the workshops that I'm offering. So in person and online, and just all of the things that I have to offer for photographers specifically, and clients too as well. So those would be the two places that I would recommend.
Amazing. Thank you again for this incredible conversation.
Thank you. It was an honor. I had a great time.
You have been listening to the Workflows Photography Podcast. To hear more from Workflows, to learn more about our guest, and for an exclusive offer for Workflows listeners, please go to workflowspodcast.com. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.